Welcome then to round 2 of the Japanese Sports Car Championship from the Fuji circuit in the foothills of the famous Mount Fuji. Rob Widow's with you for the next hour of Japanese sports car racing, and again we expect a battle between Nissan and Toyota. Nissan dominated the first round again at Fuji, although the Toyotas showed tremendous potential. On pole, Hasemi and Olafsson in the Nissan. The Toyota of Ratzenberger and Nagasaka next to them. Row 2, Hoshino Suzuki in the Nissan. Andy Wallace there sharing the Toyota with 2 Japanese drivers. Looking back to the 4th row, a Nissan and a Porsche. And then the Jaguar of Mauro Martini and Jeff Krosnoff. Back to row 7, David Kennedy's Mazda. And all set then for the start of round 2 at Fuji. The pace car has pulled off, and it looks like the Nissan leading down to the first right-hander, although Ratzenberger in the Toyota on the outside could take the lead into this first corner, and he does, braking very late. Ratzenberger in the Toyota and going straight into the lead from Hasemi and Olafsson's Nissan, followed by Suzuki in the other works Nissan. Quite a few Europeans in the Japanese Sports Car Championship. There's Tiff Needell and Anthony Reid in a Porsche, Will Hoy also in a Porsche, Jeff Lees in a Toyota, and of course David Kennedy in the Mazda. And for round 2, they're joined by American Jeff Krosnoff in the dark green Jaguar number 18, and there it is. First time we've seen that in Japanese sports car racing this year. The Suntec Jaguar driven by Mauro Martini and the American Jeff Krosnoff. So, a good clean start. Ratzenberger in the Toyota leads from the 2 works Nissans. Hasemi and Olafsson in car number 1, and Hoshino and Suzuki in car number 23, the 2 works Nissans. Led at the moment though by Roland Ratzenberger in the Toyota. And these 3 getting away from the rest of the field already on lap 2. 224 laps in this race, 1,000 kilometers of racing, and fuel is going to be all important. Fuel consumption all important as Hoshino and Suzuki move up into second place behind Ratzenberger's Toyota, putting Anders Olafsson, the Swede, back into 3rd place in car number 1. That's Olafsson. 3 Swedes in the race: Stanley Dickens, Eija Elga, and Anders Olafsson. And 4, in fact, Thomas Danielsson, also driving in round 2 here at Fuji. But this is the battle that we expected, Nissan against Toyota. Back in round 1, again at Fuji, Nissan's dominated, but Toyota began to show tremendous potential and reliability. And Ratzenberg is showing here already that Toyota have done a lot of work since that first round. There are no team orders, by the way, in the Nissan team. It's a genuine good fight between those 2 works Nissans, between Hoshino and Suzuki and Olafsson and Hasemi. But fuel consumption, as I said, is going to be important. 1,000 kilometer race, there's a limit of 510 liters of fuel. That's all they're allowed to use over the 1,000 kilometers. Whereas in round 1, which was 500 kilometers, they were limited to 275 liters. So they're going to have to watch their fuel consumption, and here at Fuji, brakes are often a problem in sports cars. It's difficult to keep the brakes cool with all that bodywork, and there's a lot of heavy braking over 200 laps of the Fuji circuit. A good battle here between the Nissan of Volker Weidler and the Toyota of Jeff Lees. Jeff Lees driving almost entirely now in Japan, as he has done for some years. He's sharing with Pierre-Henri Raffanel, the Frenchman, and Eija Elga, the Swede, while Volker Weidler, the German, shares with the Japanese Nakaya in the yellow Nissan. So yet another Toyota-Nissan battle. Behind this, the leading trio with Roland Ratzenberger, Roland Rat as he's somewhat predictably known in Europe, leading the race at the moment. And the Jaguar of Jeff Krosnoff doing well too, up in the top 6. This one of Tom Walkinshaw's creations, the sports racing Jaguar, seen for the first time in Japan, here chasing Volker Weidler's Nissan. And having a look down the inside as they come down to the first right-hander after the start-finish line. But Krosnoff thinks better of that and slots the Jag back in behind the Nissan to start another lap. But this is a good showing from the British Racing Green Jaguar. So, good battle this between Jeff Lees, Volker Weidler and Jeff Krosnoff. While out in front, Hoshino and Suzuki still lead Hasemi and Olafsson, but neither of them at the moment can do anything about Ratzenberger in the Toyota. And he shares, by the way, the Rat shares with Naoki Nagasaka, the Japanese driver, in the leading Toyota. A good day for a long-distance sports car race at Fuji. It's warm, it's dry, perfect conditions. And so far, a good, clean battle up at the front. Routine pit stops after about 25 to 30 laps. We'll see some routine pit stops. That means they'll be coming in for fuel and for tyres and a change of driver. And if they keep up this pace at the front, they will have worries about fuel consumption towards the end of the afternoon. A furious pace at the front because Nissan won't like this. They won't like the Toyota getting away at the front. And there's a tremendous amount of at stake here in Japan between the two manufacturing giants of Nissan and Toyota, as Volker Weidler has a look down the inside of Jeff Lees in the Toyota, decides against it, and meanwhile Krosnoff joins them in a three-way battle. Weidler, whoop, looked as though he was going to make contact there with the Lees Toyota, but sensibly backed off just in time, with Jeff Krosnoff watching from behind in the Jaguar, getting a good view of that scrap in front of him and ready to take advantage of the slightest mistake from the two men in front of him. Quite a bumpy circuit, Fuji, especially down the start-finish straight and into that right-hander at the end of it. Gets very bumpy there, and woo, Weidler opposite locking through the S's there, getting slightly out of shape, but pulling away now from the Toyota of Jeff Lees and the Jaguar of Jeff Krosnoff, the American. It's a tactical battle, this, of course, because racing over 1,000 kilometers, as we watch Krosnoff coming down the inside of the Jeff Lees Rafael Elga Toyota and bringing the Jaguar up another place. Tremendous showing this. But tactics all important. There's no point in roaring off at the start, flat out all the way. You have to think about the fuel, think about the brakes. And by this stage of the race, coming up to the first group of routine pit stops, the drivers will be well settled in. They'll know the car, know how the circuit's feeling, how the tyres are wearing. And the battle has only just begun at Fuji. Within the lead, Ratzenberger in the Toyota, followed by Hoshino and Suzuki in the Nissan, and Anders Olafsson and Hasemi in the second works Nissan. A good battle going on behind between the Toyota, the Nissan and the Jaguar. Join us for part 2 of the Japanese Sports Car Championship at Fuji. So you join us again for the Japanese Sports Car Championship at Fuji. This is round 2. And car number 18 there, the dark green Jaguar of the American Jeff Krosnoff and the Italian Mauro Martini, as we watch a routine pit stop. The Fedco car, the all-Japanese crew this, more fuel going in, simply a routine stop. As Jeff Krosnoff and Martini's Jaguar follows the Nissan of Hoshino and Suzuki. Always an easy one to pick out, this, the WADA and Okada Nissan. It's unusually in motor racing, a pretty shade of pink. And they even have pink masking tape to make running repairs to it. So it's always easy to pick out that, which you can't say about a lot of sports cars. Something of a nightmare for a commentator, sports car racing, because apart from the very clear number 18 on the Jaguar, the numbers are difficult to read, and because the drivers are so closed in those cockpits, it's often difficult to see the helmet inside the car, and therefore to pick out who is driving on this particular stint at the beginning of the race. As the Jaguar again attacks in a tremendous first showing for it here in Japan, taking a look down the inside of Hoshino in the Nissan, but he's unlikely to make it there. Not a good enough toe, not enough room, and Hoshino stays late off the brakes, and the Jag slots safely back in behind, or does it, as he has a look round the outside here as they come down into the S-bend, and he's through. Yes, that was a well thought out bit of driving there with from Krasnov in the Jaguar. He slightly outfoxed Hoshino in the Nissan. Gave him the impression he was going to come through on the inside, had again a look down the outside, and in all the confusion slipped through. And in the background there, the yellow Nissan, the privately entered Nissan of Volker Weidler and Nakaya, now right up with the leading works Nissans. The German, Volker Weidler, of course, very well known in Europe for his Formula 3 racing, and he had a go at Formula 3000. Made quite a good name for himself in Europe, but now races mainly out in Japan. So the battle up at the front still very, very much between Nissan and Toyota, as we expected before the start of the race. And here at round 2, Toyota much closer to the Nissans, much more on the pace than they were in round 1. And as the season progresses, we can expect probably to see a win from one of the works Toyotas. It's not likely that the Nissans are going to go round like this, like clockwork, for every single round in the lead. Every now and then you get a glimpse of the big crowds that come to Fuji. Very, very popular, any kind of motor racing, very popular in Japan, but particularly a good big sports car race like this at Fuji attracts a tremendous number of people, and Japan really has become a major force in motorsport over the last 5 years. And a lot of these drivers very successful in other areas, in the Japanese Formula 3000 Championship. And we can expect to see more Japanese drivers in Formula 1. Already we hear that Katayama may be moving to the Brabham team in Formula 1. And following in the footsteps of Suzuki, the first Japanese racing driver to score points in Formula 1. This is the battle at the front though, the two works Nissans, followed by the yellow Nissan of Volker Weidler and Nakaya, that's number 27. 38, Roland Ratzenberger, who leads from the start of this race. Ratzenberger in the Toyota. And he shares the driving with the Japanese Nagasaka, who's not as experienced as Ratzenberger, and certainly not as quick either. So the Rat has to be consistently quick to make up for the slightly slower Japanese teammate Nagasaka. So routine pit stops. About 40 laps gone now as the works Nissan of Hoshino and Suzuki comes down pit road for a routine fuel and tyre stop and of course a change of driver. And this is Pierre-Henri Raffanel bringing in the Toyota that he's sharing with Jeff Lees and Aya Elga. And that's Pierre-Henri having done the first stint in the bright orange helmet, climbing out now to let Jeff Lees into the car. Other works Nissan coming in now, the one of the Swede Anders Olofsson, the Japanese Hasemi, as the Toyota of Ratzenberger and Nagasaka comes in for its first routine stop. And this is definitely Ratzenberger in the car. He'll be handing over to Nagasaka and hoping that Nagasaka can keep up the pace at the front of the field. Furious activity in the pits now as all the cars come in. For this, the first fuel and tyre stop. And here's the Jaguar. All decked out in British racing green. And of great interest to the crowds, this will be something different for round two. Something different from a Toyota or a Nissan or a Porsche, of which there are endless numbers in Japanese sports car racing, so it's nice to see the Suntec Jag driven by Krosnoff and Martini. As we watch number one, Anders Olofsson in the Nissan, as the Weidler and the Kaya car makes its first pit stop. It can be a pretty dodgy place to be, that, the pit road during all these stops, and there always seem to be rather too many people in there who haven't got a job to do, because the cars come in pretty fast and they certainly go out in a hurry, and it can be a tricky place to stand. You need eyes in the back of your head, and there are a lot of people with an urgent job to do down there on the pit road during a race like this. So the Nissan of Volker Weidler returns to the fray. Again, an easy car to pick out, the bright yellow Nissan of Volker Weidler. The Jaguar again getting mixed up in the battle up front. Sandwich now between the Olofsson Nissan and the leading Toyota. Back markers become a feature of long-distance racing pretty quickly, and that's the Fedco car there. That's a back marker in the middle, the blue one, with the Mazda in the background, the green and red rotary engine Mazda that since Le Mans, of course, has become such a familiar sight. And you can hear in the background the Japanese lady commentator getting pretty excited about something, and that's probably because the Hoshino Suzuki Nissan, the all-Japanese crewed works Nissan, has moved up into the lead. Number 23 moved up into the lead. The pink Nissan there, driven by Wada and Okada. Another easy car to pick out. Tagging along behind Volker Weidler's Nissan. We haven't seen much of the Porsche so far in this race. The Brits, Tiffany Dell and Anthony Reid, are usually well up by this stage of the race in the Porsche, in the second group anyway, behind the Nissans and the Toyotas. And we also have Stanley Dickens and Will Hoy sharing a Porsche, and a third one that looks like Nagasaka in the Toyota, spinning away what would have been a very good top three position. Ratzenberger leading from the start in that Toyota, now driven by Nagasaka, and stationary in the middle of the track there for an expensively long time. That's a real shame. Ratzenberger will have probably seen that on the TV monitor in the pits, and he will not be pleased with that. And a black flag now for somebody. A black flag being shown. This means that a car is being called in, and that's it, the Jaguar with the door open. I wouldn't have thought that was a black flag offence myself. The door is only slightly ajar. And in fact, in round one, we saw a Nissan lapping for many laps with the door open, and it never got the black flag. Anyway, they've decided to give Jaguar the black flag for that. So it'll have to come into the pits, stop and have the door fixed. They'll probably put a bit of tape on it, or maybe it just needs slamming shut again. Anyway, bad news for Krosnoff and Martini in the Jag. But they obey the rules, of course, and in they come. And we'll probably get a look to see how they fix that door that's come open out on the circuit. Usually a bit of sticky tape will cure it, but the mechanics appear, yes, they've just slammed it shut again. The marshal's having a long look at it. We'll be back. So, around 50 laps completed out of 224 in this 1,000-kilometer sports car race at Fuji, with the Works Nissans out in the lead. Hoshino and Suzuki leading, there they are in 23, followed by Hasemi and Olofsson. And in third position now is the Will Hoy Stanley Dickens Porsche. And the Jag back down to 9th position, because it had to come in for the door to be shut, black flag the Jaguar, and it dropped down to 9th position. Very bad luck indeed that for Krosnoff and Martini. But we have Porsche's 3rd and 4th now behind the Nissans. Hoy and Dickens 3rd and 4th, Busch and Ansgar in their Porsche. So, disappointment for Ratzenberger in the Toyota. We saw earlier Nagasaka spinning it, so that's dropped right out of the top 4, and so has the Jaguar. Otherwise, it remains pretty much the same up in front. That's the Sakia Ogawa Toyota. Been running consistently in the top 6 since the start, backing up the other Toyota of Ratzenberger. That's the all-Japanese crewed car, Sakia and Ogawa. But at the moment, it appears that nobody can do much about the works-prepared Nissan team, who hold 1st and 2nd places ahead of those two Porsches. But there's a long way to go. And as the old cliche goes in motor racing, anything can happen. And this is already developing into a good scrap. Hasemi and Olofsson's Nissan being chased very hard indeed by the Toyota of Sakia and Ogawa. And not only is there a lot at stake between Nissan and Toyota, there's also a tremendous rivalry between the top Japanese drivers. And Sakia getting the Toyota right up behind the Nissan, pulls right over to the outside of the circuit. But the Nissan comes back in for a tow down to that first corner. But Sakia should have the line through here and can have the Nissan safely behind him as he goes out on another lap. close racing and a good bit of healthy rivalry between Nissan and Toyota. You notice that the Nissans have got nice big mirrors above the doors for the drivers to try and have something of a view behind, because a big problem in sports car racing is being able to see what's going on behind you. Not only are you surrounded by bodywork, but the first thing you see when you look in the mirror is a great big rear wing. And Nissan have fitted very large mirrors to the right-hand side of those sports cars. Aerodynamically designed mirrors, of course, because anything that sticks out in the airflow is not good news in motor racing. Back markers beginning to be a problem for the front runners as they come up towards around about half distance. Plenty of back markers to avoid and no chance to relax at this stage of the race, however good a lead you've got. And a good battle is about to develop here as we see 27, that's Volker Weidler and Nakaya in the Nissan, coming up to challenge Hassemi and Olofsson in the Works Nissan. So we're going to have a battle between the factory entered Nissan and the privately entered one of Volker Weidler. There he is in the yellow Nissan, chasing hard now. Hassemi and Olofsson in the Works car, with the Toyota of Sakia and Nagawa just up the road a bit in front of them, and Weidler trying very, very hard indeed to pick up a position here and prove that you can be just as quick in a privately entered Nissan as you can in one that has all the backing and support of the factory. Perfectly placed now to pass into the right-hander at the end of the start-finish straight. Got a good toe, pulled neatly out from the slipstream of the other Nissan and slots back in ahead, braking very, very late. Bit of a wiggle from its bottom there, the yellow Nissan. But Weidler keeps it all under control. It's very bumpy there, very, very bumpy down into that right-hander. And the combination of being late on the brakes and being on the bumps is certainly keep him awake. So, a bit of excitement, mid-race, some good battles all the way down the field. Despite the disappointment of the Jaguar being black flagged and Nagasaka spinning away Ratzenberger's lead in the Toyota. There's the Stanley Dickens Porsche, number 2, the black Porsche. Stanley Dickens, the Swede, driving that, along with Will Hoy and the Japanese Takahashi. Will Hoy, who's been so very successful in this year's British Touring Car Championship, goes out to Japan and does these sports car races. It's a good experience and it's well paid too. So well worth the visit to Japan in between commitments to the British Touring Car Championship, where of course Will Hoy's been so successful in the BMW M3. But here at Fuji, showing the 962 Porsche with Stanley Dickens and Takahashi. And now the pink Nissan of Wada and Okada. Either the prettiest or the ugliest car in the race, depending on how you feel about pink cars. Coming up behind the Hassemi Olofsson Nissan. With Weidler getting away from that battle now in the other Nissan. But Wada and Okada challenging hard now in their Nissan. But it's a good, interesting circuit, Fuji. There's at least 2 or 3 places to pass, which makes a change from some circuits where we watch. And this is a favourite passing place, of course, out of the slipstream on the straight, taking the inside line for the first right-hander, but it looks like Hossein is coming back at Okada, but he won't have room for it there, and he decides quite rightly to slot back in behind, and he can always try it again in a couple of laps' time, or into the S's as they come down the hill. But it's certainly not boring, the Fuji circuit. It goes uphill and downhill and left and right, and has slow corners, quick corners, medium speed corners. It's relatively safe. Most of it has plenty of runoff, and there's always something to watch at Fuji. It's not, of course, the Grand Prix circuit for Japan anymore, but nevertheless, it's seen some interesting battles over the years as Hoshino and Suzuki continue to lead comfortably, and oh dear, I don't think Wada and Okada are going any further in that Nissan. It appears to have gone off at the end of the straight. The pink Nissan is extensively redesigned at the front, but he's perfectly okay. And this is trouble for the Jaguar. Looks like engine failure, and that is tremendous disappointment for the American Jeff Krosnoff, who's been sharing the Jag with Mauro Martini. That is definitely a retirement, as the leader comes into the pits. Hoshino and Suzuki. And the brakes are getting pretty hot. It looks like they're renewing the brakes on that stop for the leaders. Kazuyoshi Hoshino, one of Japan's most successful racing drivers, who shares with Toshio Suzuki. And those two favourites now to win this, and that looks like a very, very bad shunt indeed. Wheels rolling down the circuit, bodywork flying in all directions. It's black bodywork, that much we can see. And it is the Porsche of Stanley Dickens, and it looks like he was extremely lucky to get out of that one. As we see it again, yes, we can see the black bodywork flying high in the air, bits and pieces everywhere, and the car on the left of the picture rolling crazily down the edge of the circuit. This also must have been at the end of the main straight, I would think, judging by the speed of this accident. And how Stanley Dickens got out of that, I do not know. It's cleared the barrier and goes on rolling the other side of the barrier. A very, very, very bad shunt indeed, that, for the Porsche of Stanley Dickens. And the pace car coming out, of course, while they clear up the wreckage of that car. And we'll be back at Fuji in just a few moments. So the field still all bunched up behind the pace car, and of course the pace car was essential after an accident of that magnitude. That really was a very bad shunt indeed. Bits and pieces of car all over the circuit, and Stanley Dickens very lucky to escape with bruising from that one. So the pace car will peel off into the pits at any moment. There he goes, to let the field away for the last quarter of this, the 1,000-kilometer round 2 of the Japanese Sports Car Championship at Fuji, as we see yet again in slow motion Stanley Dickens' Porsche rolling frighteningly along the circuit, leaping straight over the barrier and landing in a very wrecked heap the other side. But thank goodness the Swede Stanley Dickens came out of that okay. And we watch Hoshino and Suzuki, who still lead in the Works Nissan from their teammates Hasemi and Olafsson in the other Works Nissan. And they are followed by the Fuchs Ansgar Porsche and the Sakia Ogawa Toyota. But so far this race very much about the Nissans, and there may still be plenty of racing to come, because there are no team orders. As far as we know, there are no team orders at Nissan, and it is a race between the two cars. And Hoshino and Suzuki, of course, will be very, very keen to win this one. They're leading the championship. It's an all-Japanese crewed car, and they'll be very, very keen to beat Anders Olofsson and Hasemi in the other Nissan. So, the last quarter, the 224 laps, could have plenty of excitement yet to come, because these are the two quickest cars in the race, the two most competitive entries, and they are fighting it out for the lead of the race and the lead of the championship. And at present, Hoshino and Suzuki are in second position behind their teammates Anders Olofsson and Masahiro Hasemi. As we got a quick glimpse of the spectacular Mount Fuji landscape. But it's the racing we're here for, not the landscape, and that's the Sakia Toyota, chasing vainly at the moment the Nissans. Toyota have still got plenty of work to do before they can get on terms with their great rivals here in Japan. But they're getting closer, the potential is definitely there. And that's the Lees, Jeff Lees, Pierre-Henri Raphael, Elga Toyota number 37. But there's no doubt Hoshino and Suzuki are gaining now on their team partners. Car number 1, the leader of Anders Olofsson, and there's no doubt that Hoshino and Suzuki are gaining visibly now. They want the lead, and they're doing everything they can to get it. And if I was the Nissan team manager, I'd be worried about this, because they could so easily take each other off at this stage of a long sports car race. Their adrenaline will be up, and it's very important for both of them to win, whereas to Nissan it's just important that the make of car wins. So the team manager will be watching this battle with some interest, I would think, and hoping that the drivers will be sensible enough to make a clean fight of it and not get involved in any argy-bargy after working so hard and long to move into the top 2 positions. There's no doubt that the Japanese pairing, Hoshino and Suzuki, well, they're not both in the car at the same time, of course, but from where I am, I can't see at the moment who's driving car number 23. But there's no doubt they are moving up on Olofsson in car number 1. And when the overtaking move comes, it's going to come at this last corner, and this, whoops, a big effort. They must have touched there. It certainly looked as though they nudged each other, but anyway, it worked, because Hoshino took the lead from Hasemi. So we have a different Nissan in front now. Still red, white and blue, and still prepared by the factory. But 23. The Hoshino car moves into the lead after what looked like a pretty risky move at the end of the start-finish straight. He only just made it through there under braking into the right-hander. And that's what the team manager will be concerned about, because if they get a lot closer than that, neither of them are going to finish the race. Which would be good news for this Toyota, number 36, Sakia and Ogawa, who hold a strong 3rd place at the moment, the highest placed Toyota. And behind them in 4th and 5th are the 2 Porsches of Stefan Ansgar and Jeff Lees. And the Nissans are at it again, heavens above, 3 abreast on the straight. There's a back marker in the way, but they're at it again, and they're getting very, very close indeed, side by side, down to this first corner, with Olofsson on the inside, Hoshino coming back, and this time they definitely touched. That really won't do in the same team. That's not at all a sensible tactic. They both stayed on the road, but they had a pretty hefty touch there as they fought again over that leading position into the first corner. And much more of that, and they will both be off the circuit. But anyway, Hasemi and Olofsson retake the lead. in car number 1. And the Japanese, Hoshino and Suzuki, have to settle for second again, but not for long. They will definitely be upset by that. Slightly strong arm tactics down into the first right-hander. But at least we're seeing overtaking, we're seeing real racing, and you can't say that of all motor racing these days. Good, exciting stuff. And as long as they manage not to bash each other too hard, they should give Nissan another 1-2 in this, the second round of the championship. Plenty of old rubber lying about the circuit now. You can see those black balls on the tarmac where the tyres have been chunking, and they're actually getting on the straight, these two Nissans. But if you hold the inside line down the straight, you should be able to hold it into the corner, although I've just been proved completely wrong, as Hoshino moves back into the lead by going round the outside this time. And he slightly caught Olofsson by surprise there, in fact. I think Olofsson thought he had the winning line into that corner, whereupon Hoshino cruised round the outside of him. So, the Japanese crew back in front, with less than a quarter of the race to go. So, looking back on the race as a whole, we saw tremendous potential at the start from Roland Ratzenberger's Toyota, who led from the front row, but Nagasaka spun that strong position away, and Ratzenberger was no longer in the picture at the front. But Toyota are showing much more potential now, as looks as though somebody's running short of fuel coming down the hill there, judging by the way they're swinging it from side to side on the circuit. This race bodes well for the rest of the championship. We've seen good reliability, good close racing, and as usual, tremendous reliability from the Porsches, who are up now in fourth position with the Frenchman Georges Fuji and the Swede Stefan Ansgar. Seen virtually nothing of the Mazdas. And caught the odd glimpse of the Irishman David Kennedy, who runs Mazda's operations in Europe. A lot of their operations in Europe. A glimpse of him, but by and large we've seen nothing of the Mazdas. As the Hoshino Suzuki Nissan crosses the line in first position, followed by Hasemi and Olofsson, followed by the Toyota of Sakiya and Ogawa. So another win for Kazuyoshi Hoshino and Toshio Suzuki. Hasemi Olofsson second, Sakiya Ogawa third, Fushin Ansgar in the Porsche fourth, Jeff Lees and Pierre-Henri Raffaneau in the Toyota fifth, and Yorino and Terada in the first of the Mazdas, completing the top six. So, this picture tells it all really. The excitement is between those two works Nissans. And if there are no more team orders for the rest of the year, it's going to be very exciting indeed between Hoshino, Suzuki and Hasemi and Olofsson. Split in the points though by Sakiya and Ogawa in the Toyota. And nothing different in Japan. Champagne as usual. Might even be Japanese champagne. They seem to do most things well these days. And there's the manufacturer's position with Nissan safely on top of the pile at the moment. But Toyota trying very hard indeed to get back at them. So, that's it from round 2 of the championship at Fuji.